What is going on, Crimson Tide fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about some updates and insights after day one of Alabama football spring practice. The team is off today, but they'll be back in action for practice tomorrow, so I'm sure we're going to do the exact same thing on tomorrow's show from anything we see from practice there. We also got some insight from Kalen DeBoer during his post-practice press conference, and also the athletic department put out about 5 minutes of video from practice for us. So kind of, just doing our best to try to look in the background and see, who's doing what groups and things like that. It's only the first day of practice, so there's only so much we can take from that, but we're going to talk about all that on today's show. Before we get into that, though, want to give a shout out to our first ever super thanks here on the Alabama Football Report. Theo MCC sent $5 in saying thank you. This was for the CJ Dupree press conference that we put out last week during the NFL Combine. If you don't know what a super thanks is, it's almost the exact same thing as a super chat. The only difference is super chats you have to do during a live show. Super thanks you can do on these videos on demand here. Super simple to figure out. Just click the little $ with the heart icon at the bottom of your screen down there. If you think I'm doing a good enough job to get a donation, we always appreciate that here at the Alabama Football Report. So if you guys want to, you can send in super thanks as well. First up on today's show, some of my spring practice takeaways. It's only day one, but we got a little bit of information out of Kalen DeBoer. First one was some injuries. There's 11 players that are either going to be out for spring practice or they're going to be limited, non-contact, things like that for spring practice. Let's first dive into the 8 guys who will not be participating in spring practice. You got the new punter, Alex Asparuhov, David Bird, he's your long snapper that transferred into Alabama. Bubba Hampton, wide receiver, he's going to be out. Kevonte Henry, Domani Jackson, Deontae Lawson, Danny Lewis Jr. is a new one that didn't necessarily know about there. And then Keon Sabb also getting back from that foot injury that he suffered last season. All those guys will not be participating in spring practice. Also had a couple guys limited right now during spring practice as well. You got Justin Jefferson, Kadyn Proctor, and James Smith. Kadyn Proctor, if you remember, he had that shoulder injury that for the most part he was dealing with all year long. And then at first it was reported he wasn't going to be playing in that bowl game against Michigan. Ends up going out there and playing a little bit as well. But these guys not going to be fully out, but I would assume they're going to be wearing that black non-contact jersey. Also, a couple of guys that I noticed that were back now from injury. You got Jalen Hale. That one's going to be a very, very exciting addition to the wide receiver room for the Crimson Tide. Cole Adams also back in action at practice yesterday. He's kind of that do-it-all gadget guy for Alabama. Probably more of your number 4 wide receiver, I think, but he's definitely a guy that knows what to do and he's always in the right spot. And also put Jaden Roberts on there. He wasn't necessarily out, but remember last year he was banged up all year. Had a lot of in and out going back and forth with Geno Vandermark. So saw him in some of the photos and videos and stuff like that for Alabama. And because he wasn't noted by Kalen DeBoer as one of those guys who's going to be out or, minimal contact, I thought that was a very, very positive sign there. And just because there are some guys that are out for Alabama, that's kind of a positive thing to a little bit of an extent. You've got guys now who can step up and get more reps here in spring practice. You got Cam Calhoun, at that cornerback position. He transferred in from Utah. Xavier Mincy, at that safety spot. You got Keon Sabb out. I would assume Xavier Mincy is going to be one of those guys competing for one of those starting safety spots. Same with Cam Howard as well. I think he's a guy that can kind of play kind of everywhere in the defensive backfield. Same with Deshaun Jones as well. And they got 5-star cornerback out of that 2025 recruiting class, Dijon Lee. Definitely think he's going to be a guy with Domani Jackson out. I would assume he's going to be a guy that gets a lot of reps at that cornerback spot during spring practice here. Also, pretty solid news for some of those younger linebackers as well. Caden Jones, QB Reese, we know those are going to be the guys that have to step up for Alabama after this season. You got 3 really solid starting linebackers going into this season, but with, Justin Jefferson and Deontae Lawson kind of banged up, not going to be doing a lot for Alabama during spring practice. Those guys are going to get a lot of reps during spring camp. And then you also got some freshmen coming in from that 2025 class. Darrell Duke Johnson, Luke Metz, Abdul Sanders as well. I think those guys are going to get a lot of opportunity during spring practice with some of those starting linebackers kind of banged up right now. Going over to the offensive line, we talked about Kadyn Proctor. He's banged up a little bit, and I do think this is going to allow some of those guys as well to step up, especially with the lack of depth, especially at that tackle position that you have. Kalen DeBoer talked about Ola Salinen as a guy that took a couple snaps at the tackle position, but they really do like him at that guard spot. Also want to make note, Gino Vandermark, I spotted in one of the, very, very quick clips during that 5-minute video. He was actually with those ones at the left guard spot. So got Cam Dewberry there right now, but I would not rule out Gino Vandermark as a guy that can get some opportunity there. And we also heard Tyler Booker at the NFL Combine shouting out Will Sanders. So don't know yet who's going to be playing that left guard spot. Definitely not going to get figured out here during spring practice, but I think you got a lot of solid guys there. Just that tackle depth is one thing that really does, worry me to a little bit of an extent along the offensive line. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video. Name a freshman that you are most excited about. I know a lot of people are probably going to say Keelon Russell, and that is totally fine. I totally get that, but still a lot of other guys out there that are going to be very good for Alabama here in the future. Maybe even in the first year, you never know. Dejon Lee probably is the guy that I would say. So let me know what you guys think at the pinned comment of today's video. That ad's going to come here on YouTube. That is totally fine. You guys can ignore it. Get down there and let me know what you guys think. The second thing that I want to talk about here, really this came from the, 5-minute clip. No, this was actually like the 48-second highlight video that Alabama football put out on Twitter. Noticed a lot of turnovers during day one. And, you think about that with the quarterbacks, throwing some interceptions and things like that. It's fine. It's day one. But I do want to highlight some of the players that went out there and that I saw during that video that got some, turnovers. Because that was one of those big things that Kane Womack really did talk about last season, was being intentional with forcing some of those turnovers. You had Bray Hubbard, saw he had a interception, also had a very nice pass breakup as well. Cam Calhoun, we talked about him, somebody that's going to get an opportunity to step up here in spring and maybe even get an opportunity during next fall as well. He had an interception, a very nice interception, really just took the ball away from Jalen Hale. So, really aggressive when it comes to being in that back end and, just being intentional with going after the football. Also, I saw Tim Keenan. I assume it's an interception. It was a really quick clip, but it looked like it was a ball that got batted up in the air, and Tim Keenan actually came down with it and started taking it back to the house. So not necessarily sure if he actually got a touchdown off that or anything like that, but I really do love seeing that defensive side of the ball being very aggressive, something that Kane Womack really did talk a lot about last year. And like I said, you're only one practice in. You got 3 interceptions. That's a very good sign for the defense. Wouldn't think too much of it in terms of, the offense really turning the ball over, though. Before we continue here in just a second, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. You guys can get up to 50% off on Alabama hoodies right now. Just go into chatsports.com/CFB hoodies. They've got hoodies, they've got quarter zips, they've got crew necks. Anything you could want Alabama gear, they've got it there on Fanatics. There's also a little clickable link over there in the corner. That link will also be in the comment section and the description of today's video. So just go to chatsports.com/CFB hoodies to get up to 50% off on Alabama hoodies. Number 3 here, and this is the one that everybody really wants to talk about, right? It is the quarterbacks. And one thing that I want to, just put up there right up front, the quarterback battle will not get solved this spring. I want to give a shout out to Nick Kelly of AL.com for really going out there and asking the main question. Was it solved on day one? Obviously, it was kind of a joke, made everybody laugh, made Kalen DeBoer laugh as well. I know everybody went out there and they saw that video of Keelon Russell throwing a very, very nice pass to Jam Miller. Everybody got all excited saying he was going to be QB1. Just want to pump the brakes on that just a little bit. Look, when they put these videos and photos and things like that out there on social media, they only showed the quarterbacks throwing nice passes. Not one time did you go out there and see, a quarterback throwing a wounded duck or just throwing a overthrown ball or something like that. You notice they didn't show any of the interceptions. They didn't show who actually threw the ball on those plays. So, just pump the brakes just a little bit with some of those videos that you see about the quarterbacks, throwing passes and stuff like that. They're only going to be showing good passes. But one thing that I did want to note, Keelon Russell has added 17 pounds now since he got to campus. He started off when he first signed with Alabama, was sitting at about 175 pounds. It was noted yesterday on Alabama's updated roster. He's up to 192 pounds. And, that was some of the criticism when it came to him coming out of high school, him being a little bit smaller. But look, we've heard this plenty of players out there for Alabama and really other teams as well. It's not just for Alabama. You remember back Devontae Smith listed at 170, still right now, his 4th season in with the Eagles. He's got 2 seasons now with over 1,000 yards, and all 4 seasons now he's had over 800 yards in receiving yards. So just because, the size is a little bit smaller, he's going to grow into his body. I got to assume by the time he's a starter for Alabama, he's going to be north of 200 pounds. So I would not worry about that at all with Keelon Russell. Kalen DeBoer was also asked about Keelon Russell and kind of what he's seen so far. He said, I saw him last summer, and I saw him in person for 1 game last fall. He's in pads and all that, too. He looks good right now. Strong and moves around. He's just a good all-around athlete. The weight room certainly for any new guy is going to be critical. It's good to get that first phase under your belt. That's why being an early enrollee is so important. Obviously now and through the spring. One of the reasons why we go every other day and not back-to-back days ever, just so we can get big days of lifting in. Really, it's a minimum 3 times per week. So let me know here in the comments section, who do you guys want to start at quarterback for the Crimson Tide? Not necessarily who you think it's going to be, but who you really want to be that starting quarterback. Game 1 of the season. Type TS if you think it's going to be Ty Simpson, or AM if you want it to be Austin Mack, or KR if you would like it to be Keelon Russell. Now, as of right now, I continue to believe that Ty Simpson will be Alabama's starter next year. Now, this doesn't mean that Austin Mack or Keelon Russell can't step up and be the guy to be that starting quarterback for Alabama. But I'm also, not saying this about Ty Simpson just because he is the oldest. He's been QB2 for Alabama for the past 2 seasons now. And if you think back to last season, Dylan Lonergan got QB3 reps all season long over Austin Mack. That was from A-Day all the way through the Mercer game where we saw multiple quarterbacks in that game. And I just do not want to fall into the next guy is the guy trap that frankly a lot of Alabama fans, do fall into. Everybody wants someone with experience until that new shiny toy steps into the building. That new shining toy being Keelon Russell in this case. As a fan base, I think we need to do a little bit of a better job accepting the fact that guys need to develop at all positions, not just the quarterback position. Ty has the most in-game experience for any of these quarterbacks on Alabama's roster, and he has the most experience both in games and in taking those practice reps as well. I just want the best player to play at the end of the day. Right now, I think that's Ty Simpson. And if I'm wrong in the future, look, I'll admit that. I did that with Jalen Milroe. So if I'm wrong here on Ty Simpson, I'll admit it when we see it. But for right now, I've got Ty Simpson winning that quarterback battle for the Crimson Tide next season. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. We will continue to do videos here all off season long. Even thinking about going down to the A game. It's not going to be televised, so maybe I can do some content in there in the stadium for you guys. So do not miss out on any Alabama football news or rumors. Make sure you guys hit that sub button for me right now.